So this situation just keeps getting stranger by the minute. Something just came across my radar, which I probably should have known, and many of you probably already do. So many of you might know there's a canal right now that makes shipping goods around the world a lot easier. It connects the Red Sea, which is just to the east of Egypt, and there's a canal called the Suez Canal, which allows ships that would otherwise have to go all the way around the coast of Africa, which takes way longer. It lets ships move from the ocean back into the Mediterranean and service, routes to Europe. And Egypt took it over a while back, and there's a proposed new route for a new canal that would bypass the one that's in Egypt. And why would somebody want to do that? It makes a lot of money. I think it's something like $6 billion a year that one can make once this canal would be built. So the only problem is the proposed pathway of this new canal happens to snake around and has to move substantially to the north and to the west in order to run around the Gaza Strip. So this is all just conjecture, and this isn't even me talking. This is me repeating what other people have surmised. Others have thought that one of the reasons why one might want to have access to that property is to be able to straight line the route of this canal directly to the Mediterranean, thereby saving money and making the project easier. I have no evidence to substantiate that, but what I am going to do is play a really good video from someone who's done a little bit more in-depth analysis. I think you'll like what she has to say, so here it goes.
I think I just figured out why the US, UK, and France are so adamantly pro-Israel right now. We all knew it had to do with money, but I'm gonna tell you exactly how. There's a shout out to my uncle who told me to do some research on the Ben Gurion Canal, and I did, and I took notes. Now, who is Ben Gurion? He is known as the founding father of Israel. He was the first prime minister, yes, you guessed it, in 1948. And this canal is a proposal to connect the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea through here, right? But we already have a connection, and it's called the Suez Canal. And if you don't know the history, let's get into it. The Suez Canal was opened in 1869, and the Suez Canal Company was given a 99-year lease to own the Suez Canal. And guess who owned the Suez Canal Company? The French and the British. I think it's also important to note that the British Empire originally was opposed to building the canal because they thought it would directly threaten their economy, but instead they just decided let's benefit from it, bought 44% of the shares in 1875, so they were all good. Now in 1888, the maritime powers, Great Britain, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Spain, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Russia, and Turkey signed this thing called the Convention of Constantinople. What's important about this is it said that every single nation should be able to use the canal, whether at war, at peace. It cannot be denied access to anyone. In 1949, Egypt denied Israel access after the Nakba, after they did what they did. That was a huge deal. It was a big statement because of this. Now in 1956, when the US was basically having a proxy war with the Soviet Union in that region, the Egyptian president at the time, Gamal Abdel Nasser, decided to nationalize the Suez Canal, so take it away from the British and French-owned company, essentially because the US reneged on a previous agreement to finance the Aswan Dam project that was for the Nile, getting water and electricity to the Egyptian population, etc., etc. This was a massive shift, a huge move in the region and globally. Probably why it was also used as a battleground in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. Now, after the Arab-Israeli War and the Geneva Conference, etc., what you need to know is Israel and Egypt signed a peace treaty at Camp David, signed by Jimmy Carter. This is from a US government website, by the way. My sources are checked, tried, and trusted. And the US was given credit for orchestrating a peace treaty between these two countries. Again, why were they involved from the beginning? Who knows? The US has always been here. We're in 1979 now. Should all be cool. A peace treaty was signed. Like, everything is perfect. Suez Canal is open to everyone. Cool, cool, great, right? Wrong. 16 years before this, and even before the Arab-Israeli War, the US Department of Energy and the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory had been making a plan for something else. In 1963, they made a classified plan to help excavate the Negev desert hills with 520 nuclear bombs to help create a canal. This was only made public in 1993, 1994, depending on the sources you check. So at the time of the peace treaty, Nobody knew this was going on, except, of course, Jimmy Carter. Now, we could also talk about how the war was a product of collusion between Britain, France, and Israel, and they decided to initiate the war, but we'll save that for another time. You might be asking yourself, why do they want to build another canal? Like, we have the Suez Canal right here. Why do we need a canal through here? This is where the money comes in, baby. Without the Suez Canal right here, ships from Asia would have to go all the way down and around Africa in order to reach Europe. This canal right here currently sees the passage of 12 to 15%, depending on the source you check, of the world's trade and 10% of the global oil distribution. Just this little canal right here. Now, who benefits from this? Egypt, of course. It's their canal, right? In 2023, they broke records and made a revenue of $9.4 billion US. Yay for Egypt, right? Well, how do you think the US, the UK, France, and Israel feel about that? Not good. Suez Canal is not ideal. Up until 2014, you could only go one way, which meant for 6 hours it went in one direction and 6 hours it went in the other, which was super not efficient. It was also not wide enough to accommodate some of the largest ships in the world. So what happened in 2021? You might remember this. One of the world's biggest ships jammed the Suez Canal, leading to approximately $900 million of losses. The US was really not happy about this, and the Pentagon released a statement that this made it difficult for the movement of their military vessels, specifically to Israel, but not to worry, they had other ways. Now, when they're planning the Ben Gurion Canal, they're planning to have it 50 meters deep, which is 10 meters deeper than the Suez Canal, and 200 meters wide, which will facilitate the biggest ships in the world going in both directions. Not only that, but directly competing